welcome back to the, I wouldn't say third and final episode with our guest host Will Cotton, but welcome to Will again and myself, Alex Blackburn. I don't know why I'm saying welcome to myself.
It's going to be the last fucking one for me, mate.
Of the Hellbound Podcast. Michael's on a break at the moment from the show because he's exceptionally busy. He's been working on Star Trek recently. He's got a lot of acting gigs going on, so Michael and I will be back soon, and we'll probably do a three-way episode. Myself, Will, and Michael. So, Will, you were talking last week and the week before.
Yeah, I never got to the point.
Before we recorded a few weeks ago, about 3 horror movies you wanted to kind of bolster and help highlight that deserves more plaudits, would you say?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, I would consider these films to be inside the canon of cult now.
Okay.
Right, and you know, most people who check out this show, they're going to have heard of them. But for anybody else out there who is new coming to the show, or you know, who is not aware of these titles, I implore you to go and check them out. Now, I'm a child of the '80s, of the early '80s.
Yeah, best decade of cinema.
And this kind of these kind of 3 films sort of really kind of quite reflect the time in which, you know, I've grown up and matured in. So there's nothing here after 2002.
Yeah, and when did you see any of these in the cinema, or is it originally all from the 80s?
I have not seen any of these in the cinema, no.
Okay.
I would like to see them in the cinema, particularly one of them because it's directed by Ken Russell, but and Ken Russell's my jam, you know what I mean? So him and Friedkin. I'd like to be Ken Russell. Not now because he's dead.
So how do you want to kind of?
Well, we're just going at number 1, yeah.
Yeah, going at 1, yeah.
So my favourite horror film. I suppose personally, because we talked last week about The Exorcist, yeah. That's kind of my favourite masterpiece horror film, like that is most, you know.
It's on the Mount Rushmore.
It's the Mount Rushmore, yeah. But I actually think kind of my personal favourite horror movie of all time is Tony Scott's The Hunger.
Wow, yeah.
And you know, 1983. Most people believe that's Tony Scott's first feature film. It's his first kind of theatrically released feature film, but he actually made like a 52-minute, you know, becomes a feature because of those 2 minutes.
Yeah, and he made 10,000 commercials before that. 15, or is that his brother?
I think he probably just made like 30. 30, you know, like something reasonable. You know, no, obviously a huge, because he ran RSA for a while, Tony Scott. Then while Ridley Scott was becoming a fucking director, movie director.
Yeah, and RSA, what does that stand for?
Ridley Scott Associates. The kind of, certainly in Europe, the company for advertising with a house style as well, with a style which we can talk about because of this movie.
Yeah, and they produced really just directed that iconic 80s.
The Apple 1984 commercial, yeah. But I mean, you know, they pretty much directed all of the iconic. RSA certainly made all of the iconic kind of commercials, most of them anyway. You know, the Hovis commercial from the 80s with the bike and
before we go into, oh my god, yeah. Before we go into The Hunger, I would say, I might be wrong, but I'd say Tony Scott is underappreciated, possibly when you run him alongside his brother, and Tony has been responsible for just a huge sway of action or just movies that are just punch above anyone else's weight class.
Yeah,
and you know, throughout his life and before his sad passing away, we loved him. We love Ridley's content.
Yeah.
I think you and I had a real passion for Tony Scott movies, and The Hunger is the kind of, I won't say the epitome of that, but it's you like that, you will probably like the majority of his flicks. Hello? We're nearly finished. We're just recording in here. Is that okay? Yeah, come in, yeah. We're still recording, but it's not going to... It might get added, actually. My wife's just walked through the door. She's fine. She's just going... Meow, 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 meow. That's our little dog. Yeah. So we'll let you back into the living room in a minute. Okay, bye. Cheers, baby.
Well, yeah, like Tony's...
I'll just finish my little point. But yeah, I think Tony Scott holds a kind of a special place for us, and for many different ways, for The Hunger for yourself, and for me, just tonally, and a lot of filmmakers, especially like Michael Bay, that have tried to, I won't say recreate, but have kind of how would you say he's been a bit influenced in cinema?
Well, I mean, first off, Tony Scott is one of an influx of directors who directly came from commercials and the commercial world, and particularly UK commercials. And so there was an attention to detail and dimension of the image that hadn't really existed before. Those like Adrian Lyne, Ridley Scott, obviously, and Adrian Lyne are the two main ones. You know, Adrian Lyne 9.5 Weeks, and I think he directed
Jacob's Ladder.
I don't know if he did that. To be honest, I should do, because Jacob's Ladder is actually one of my favourite horror films as well. I should really bone up on that. But did he do Fame?
And he did Arlington Road as well, didn't he?
No.
Is Adrian Lyne?
No, we'll get into that in the next film.
Okay.
He definitely, Mark Pellington directed Arlington Road.
Okay.
And that's music videos, which is the generation afterwards. But
Tony's, and didn't Tony Scott actually make an advert for Gillette or Lockheed or something that had a fighter plane in?
That's how he got top with Saab, that was, I think.
That was Saab, that was it. That's exactly it, yeah. Because they had the Saab that was running down the runway with the plane. So you were saying The Hunger.
So The Hunger, So 1983, The Hunger, it's Tony Scott's first theatrical feature film, based on, it's adapted from the Whitley Strieber. Whitley Strieber's kind of an interesting guy. And, I just gave you the Blu-ray for Wolfen today to check out. Whitley Strieber also wrote The Wolfen, the book The Wolfen. He's an author. Kind of an interesting guy. He also wrote Communion as well, which turned into the movie with Christopher Walken that everybody references with the probe up the butt. I think that's where it started,
Everyone references it. I like that.
So The Hunger is written by Whitley Strieber, turned into a movie with Tony Scott. And it's a vampire film.
So if you can give us a little kind of...
like a synopsis.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So The Hunger has an amazing cast. It's, it stars the ever amazing Catherine Deneuve, the, otherworldly David Bowie.
Yeah.
Susan Sarandon, who's just,
smoking hot in this movie.
Just fucking outrageously good. And briefly, I think maybe like one of the first cameo appearances of Willem Dafoe.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And there's a bunch of other great actors in there from the time, who are all important and who do great things. Particularly, there's a child actress that I can't.
One of the greatest age makeups I've ever seen.
Dick Smith, yeah. Dick Smith, man, did Bowie's aging makeup. Well, okay, so the basic story is that Catherine Deneuve plays this character called Miriam Blaylock, and Miriam Blaylock is it's basically a vampire, but they don't have teeth. They have like ankh, like Egyptian, like shaped, symbolic cutting and stabbing, small stabbing kind of, items.
Knives and stabbing weapons.
It's smaller than a knife, yeah. It's like something for bloodletting, And her and David Bowie, they're on the club scene in the beginning of the movie, and they're looking for a couple, So this is an erotic film, yeah. But certainly by 1980s standards, when eroticism was something that fucking existed, like. So they're out on the prowl. I think in France actually the movie's called like Predators, basically, which I think might be a better title in some ways. So Miriam Blaylock and Bowie's character, they're out on the prowl, and they find a couple, take them back, kill them, drink their blood, and dispose of their bodies, right? And then what? So Miriam Blaylock, the Deneuve character, has told Bowie's character in the past that. That they have this long, great love affair, and that he'll live forever, that he's immortal, and she's immortal. But it turns out that she lied, and I think he's been with her like a few hundred years, and then instantly he starts to age in the course of a few days. He starts to become fucking ancient. And this is what we're talking about with the makeup, the amazing age makeup, some of the best age makeup of all time by Dick Smith.
What year is this film?
83.
83, and you look at some makeups now; they don't look anywhere near as good. Yeah, absolutely.
Not a patch, even with better techniques. Some are. There are one or two, but they're like, this is really like a standard for me at least. And Bowie's performance as well as he goes through the aging processes. At the same time, concurrently, and there's a question about whether Bowie starts to age because Miriam Blaylock's attention is taken away from Bowie. She sees Susan Sarandon's character talking on TV about progeria, I think, aging, the process of aging, and how she's a scientist and her program is looking to either halt or reverse or slow down the process of aging. Bowie also sees this, and as Miriam Blaylock is kind of not antithetical to his plight of aging, she just accepts it because it turns out she's seen this many times before. She's thousands of years old, and she has all of her previous lovers or companions, we could say, that they all end up in a state of not death, a kind of a fate worse than death. They end up stacked in boxes in the attic.
Wow.
And and so we know that this is going to happen to Bowie. At the same time, he seeks out Susan Sarandon's character because he wants the answer to stop his death, basically, or his imminent fate, the fate worse than death. And she is drawn to Susan Sarandon, you know, for her energy, her sexuality, her sensuality. She goes to meet her, and then they kind of click, and she has like some kind of magic. The Catherine Deneuve character, Miriam Blaylock, Susan Sarandon they begin a kind of a lesbian love affair. It is an 80s lipstick lesbian love affair, so it's very pleasurable to the dads out there.
Yeah,
you know, but you know, and it has some kind of moments of, you know, tongue-in-cheekness about that, I guess.
It has got so much going for it, this movie.
But what I like about it is that it's the story of someone who, you know, who is incredibly dishonest and, you know, maybe can't be alone, but moves from one partner to another partner. And, you know, in the times that we live in, I think particularly now, that's a very prescient thing that a lot of people do. You know, they go from, you know, I think we've all done this, you know, I've certainly done this in my life, but, you know, but a person who continually does that, I think there's, you know, questions about kind of narcissism and deep psychological, you know, derangement and, you know, personality problems there. Like, so, you know, and it's a curious tale. So there's that's, and I just love the movie. I love everything about it. I think stylistically, it's one of the best looking movies ever shot. It's in the vein of what Ridley, his brother, did with Blade Runner. You know, there's a kind of a genetic, obviously, you know, not just physically, but there's, you know, between the two brothers, but there's a kind of a genetic relationship between these films.
Has there been a restored or restoration of that at all?
Yeah, there has.
Is there a decent? Is there a really?
Well, apparently the
version
original negative was in quite bad shape, and because, you know, when this was, you have to tell them, like when this movie was released, you know, it tunked. It really didn't do very well.
It was a complete disaster.
It was a disaster.
Almost basically destroyed his career.
Yeah. And it's a shame as well, because it's a very good film. Yeah, there was some studio meddling with the ending as well. I think there was a different ending originally. I think more from the book that was intended, where with the Susan Sarandon character. So you know, the movie did it really crashed. You know, it performed very poorly, and that altered Scott's career trajectory, because the next film he got was Top Gun. Instead of going on to make Man on Fire at the time, he was going to make that. He didn't make that for another.
He was going to make Man on Fire back in the 80s.
He was going to make that, back in the 80s, like, and it was going to be set in Italy, but which was the kidnap capital of the world at that point, instead of Mexico.
Yeah.
And it was made. Man on Fire was made with you know, a different actor and a different director, obviously. So that's, you know, Scott's first feature film, but also, you know, the kind of just the level of mastery of how the film is made, how the film feels. You know, these actors who are otherworldly in it, you know, and at that time, and I first saw this film. I don't remember if you remember the cable station Bravo.
Yes.
From back in the day.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I used to watch a lot of Bravo.
So this is one of those kind of
Red Shoe Diaries is
Red Shoe Diaries, David Duchovny, pre-X Files. Yeah. You can see where my taste comes from. Yeah. So this was on Bravo, and I actually never watched it, like, you know, in its full run, in its full duration. I would, because it was on every night, so I would see pieces of it, and until I kind of bought it out of curiosity, you know, some years later, I didn't realize what order, strangely, like this happened to me with 2001 as well. I didn't know what order the sequence of events in the film actually ran in, like the bit with Bowie, the bit with Sarandon, the bit at the end. So it was kind of, and I thought it was kind of a crap film when I was a kid. I just thought it was erotic, and I was, you know, a young teenage boy, like, mum and dad are gone to bed. Let's check this out, right? Yeah. So, and then and it's become like it's in my top 5 favorite films of all time now. So.
Yeah, it's not an image thing or sound or video or whatever, but when you watch this film, it feels like there's a thickness to it. There's something tangible about the rooms, the spaces, the characters.
It's a strange thing to say, but there's a kind of a verisimilitude in the movie. There's a reality to the movie that doesn't exist in films today.
Yeah.
It's photographic.
Absolutely.
As fake as it is. And it's shot, I think it's shot in Mayfair as well, in London. And Mayfair doubles for New York, But there's, the art direction's superb. Like we were talking about before, because Scott come from commercials, he was keen to put everything that he knew, in his approach and the RSA approach. And we were talking about the RSA house, the lighting style for RSA. Yeah. That's in this movie, and so again, there's that genetic, correlation between that and Ridley Scott's work. But also, on the commentary, I'll come back to the restoration thing and all that in a minute. On the commentary, Scott talks about how this film, and it's very obvious, it's very highly influenced by Nick Rogue's, you know how I am with names. What's the film that he made?
Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now. Sorry, not Don't Look Now. Performance. And so and if you watch Performance and you watch The Hunger, the editing rhythm at the beginning of both films, it's identical. It's the same structure for this kind of the two method. The approach is the same. It's also heavily influenced by Barry Lyndon in places, which is kind of interesting, by Kubrick. And it's very influenced by Helmut Newton, the photographer Helmut Newton, who is my favorite photographer of all time. And so everything in the movie just sings to me. It's sometimes
it's your jam.
It's my fucking jam, bro. And even down to the clothes that Catherine Deneuve wears, even though they're very 80s, the sensuality of the movie, it clicks with me, So I love this film.
Well, that you get a key word.
And it's a horror film about something.
Yeah, the sensuality of that film. It's almost like that should have been what the film's about, because you feel almost every movement in this. You really step into a world in this film.
Yeah.
And when I first watched it, I was a little bit, I think I was 15 or 16. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it because I was a teenager as well.
Yeah, a teenage boy, yeah, of course, yeah.
And then when I watched it,
what's hotter than Susan Sarandon and Catherine Deneuve, who have the same profile, right? It's like they're mirror reflections almost of each other when they're in profile, yeah. What, for a teenage boy, even now, I'm 41, yeah. It doesn't have the same impact, obviously, on me anymore. We live in different times, yeah. But it is a beautiful thing to behold.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely touch upon The Hunger again in a future episode.
Before you wrap that up, let me just say, because you did ask a question about the restoration. So
yes,
I would advise, if you want to see this film, seek it out on the DVD version, right? The Blu-ray is not much better in terms of quality. The DVD restoration was phenomenal. It's a very, very high quality DVD transfer. But more than that, the very last shot, I think it is, of the film on the DVD version is coloured blue. And in the Blu-ray, for some reason, it's coloured orange-red. And I think, and so one is more sunset and one is more nightfall. And I think the nightfall version with the blue filter works better for me anyway.
That's more than a mistake. That's a choice, isn't it?
It must be, right? Unless it came from two different prints, but it looks like it's the same print to me.
That's fascinating. I'd love to know what the truth is, even a particular shot like that. Really,
well, I believe the print was in a pretty bad state, and they brought it back, and it sings, So it's very filmic, right? You can see the grain in the movie, you can see some marks in the movie because it was in a bad way. So, so I would say seek out the DVD version. You'll get it cheaper anyway, but get both because it needs the recognition.
So that was the Howling then.
The Howling, no.
That's The Hunger by Tony Scott. Please check that out. And so we're moving swiftly on to a second film you'd like to highlight in the horror genre.
Yeah, well, in the last segment we talked about Mark Pellington being the director of Arlington Road.
Yes.
Right. Mark Pellington is the director of probably my second favorite horror film. Again, not including The Exorcist, right? Because that's just, like we said, Mount Rushmore, yeah?
Yeah.
So my personal kind of favourite is the Mothman Prophecies.
Now, this is I'd say 2002?
I think it's 2002, yeah.
It's an educated guess because I was working at the cinema.
It is 2002.
I was working at the cinema. It was just coming to the end of when I was stopped being at college and moved on to travel around Europe for a few months. And I think when I first watched this, I absolutely loved this movie. It's probably one of Richard Gere's best movies in terms of performance and a very kind of superficial level for myself, because it's not one of my favorites, but it's a very, very good movie. Tonally, this is this is cinema in terms of horror and a thriller and what it means to be human in many ways. But I think the Mothman's Prophecies is a classic. I really do believe that, and I haven't seen it for a while, but when I watched that, I was like, this is... Sometimes you have a realization of how good a movie is when you're, say, 15, 20 minutes in. But I was having those moments throughout this film when I first saw it in the cinema. I saw this one in the cinema. I absolutely loved it. And what are your kind of takeaways? What do you kind of love about this?
Well, so the Mothman Prophecies...
Can you tell the audience or the listeners of what it's about?
Well, the Mothman Prophecies is centered on the character Richard Gere. I forget his name, but in his character's name. Richard Gere is married to... So it features Deborah Messing and Laura Linney as well.
Laura Linney's amazing.
Who, a lot of audience will know from
she's great
Ozark.
In everything.
Yeah. Laura Linney is... And she's a bit of a horror babe as well, I think. She's like the thinking man's horror babe.
She's the new Dee Wallace.
She's better than Dee Wallace, bro. It's Laura Linney, But because she's in The Exorcism of Emily Rose as well, and she absolutely kills it in that, which is another favourite of mine. But, so Richard Gere is a journalist. A writer of for a newspaper, and he's like journeying basically first off, he's the beginning of the film, he's looking to buy a house with his wife, and his wife is killed in a tragic accident, a car accident.
That's right, yeah.
And that's essential for anybody to understand what the film is about.
Key, yeah.
And he is a grieving widower. He's trying to get back to work and just move forward. He's not giving himself really any time. He's just trying to put one foot in front of the other. So he one night, it's late, he's a workaholic, who's in, he kind of heads off to, I think, a certain part of the country that's supposed to be like a 2-hour drive.
Yes.
And when he gets there, he's supposed to be going to one town with like a certain name. And when he gets there, he on the way, he has some car trouble, breaks down. He ends up getting into this town. It turns out it's another town in a completely different direction in the United States, which is like 4 or 5 hours away. And yet no excess time in his travel time has occurred. So in 2 hours, he's traveled 4 or 5 hours worth of journeying, and he ends up in this town, and this town is being kind of, I don't know if you could say haunted, but people are, he is experiencing, through the journey of the film, he experiences, and other people are experiencing strange phenomena, which slowly, which is, and what I like about this film is that phenomena is kind of, it's unknowable. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Things happen in and out of time. For instance, when Richard Gere gets to this place, he knocks on the door of this couple, and the guy comes down to the door with a fucking shotgun, opens it up, and he's like, it's him again. Yeah. Like, Richard Gere's his character has never been here.
Is that Will Patton?
I think that's Will Patton, yeah. He's supposedly never been there before, and yet this guy's saying, look, every night this week, this guy's been knocking on my door at this time.
That's right, yeah.
And so Laura Linney gets called. She's like the local sheriff or whatever, and she gets called into the mix, and then...
And she's trying to aid him, isn't she?
She's trying to work out what's going on. He's trying to work out what's going on. Everybody's trying to work out what's going on.
Yeah.
And what's going on is...
He's done quite a few of those roles where he's trying to work out what the hell's happening to him.
Well, Richard Gere is, I think, I know he has his detractors, but I think Richard Gere really is like a phenomenal actor. He's a fucking great movie star, but he has a humanity that, he has a kind of... at least we don't know Richard Gere, we don't know what he's like, but his acting in a lot of his, even when he's playing a prick, he has a kind of humanity, an accessible humanity that a lot of actors, a lot of movie stars, they don't seem to have. He's obviously got a sensitivity, and I think that works really well. It's like, and maybe that's why he's so good in the film.
He's superb in Primal Fear as well, and
it's superb in Primal Fear. Arbitrage. That's not too old. That was a fantastic film. And he's American Gigolo. He's it's Richard Gere. Pretty Woman.
And his talents lend themselves in a really key way to this film, Mothman Prophecies.
And he was married to Cindy Crawford, so this is all I need to know. Cindy Crawford, who was photographed much by Helmut Newton. So and so the movie moves from there. It's based on a book by John Keel, which I've kind of read pieces of it. It's a much more complex kind of. There's a lot more stuff. There's much more about UFOs in that book as well.
Okay.
But the titular Mothman, right, it's about the Mothman. And, you know, many people are into like, you know, what do they call them? You know, people are into these kind of strange animals and stuff. They have like cryptids, right? People are into cryptids, the Joe Rogan thing, all that sort of thing. Right?
Okay.
People who are into cryptids will be very well aware of the concept of the Mothman, probably seen this film and the documentary about the Mothman. So, and this is kind of based on a seemingly true account of phenomena that was experienced, you know, in this place in Ohio, where a great tragedy had beset this like local community. Yeah. And in the run up to that tragedy, to that run up to this terrible event, people experienced this phenomenon where the Mothman was seen flying around or looking in people's windows, or, you know, had a conversation with somebody, whatever, you know, and seemed to take slightly different forms. But it seemed to be a portent of tragedy. And in the movie, it's kind of posited that it's an otherworldly thing that, you know, is there to tell us something, but we can't fully understand it. And in the film, the way in which it's trying to communicate with us is very unnerving and is very creepy and horrible. But you know, does it know that it's doing that? Is it a malevolent thing? Is it not a malevolent thing? You know, so
yeah,
you know, but it's creepy as fuck. The movie is creepy, but underneath that, the subtext of the film is about Richard Gere grieving and the journey of that.
That's one of the,
and it's not for everybody as well.
I think that's one of that particular
point
or facet of the movie is. I think it's the greatest aspect of the film for me.
It is, yeah. And that's what elevates it, right? Beyond just being a creepy kind of supernatural thriller. It could have easily
gone down an X-Files episode.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that, you know, this is a story for the cynical amongst you out there, right?
There's a few of us out there.
This is a film about, you know, a man who was desperately in love with his wife, you know, and his life partner is gone. And you know, and he's trying to deal with that, you know, and it's every day is a choice, and he doesn't really know, he doesn't have much reason. And you know, and anybody who's ever been through serious heartbreak as well, right? Yeah, well, you know, that experience of like being in the world, and you know, you start to see your ex-partner here and there, you know, because other people have aspects of them in their character, maybe just in their body. You know, you start to know, is that her over there? You know, and you start to see these people in the wildest places. And this is the kind of phenomenon that's happening to him at the beginning of his experience there. So, you know, and there's a question there, is he just seeing, you know, Deborah Messing, or, you know, is there something more going on, or is it imagining it, or, you know, whatever. So, you know, it's definitely a treatise on grieving.
Yeah, and Deborah Messing went on to great, bigger and better things.
Yeah, she definitely did, yeah.
But yeah, an absolute classic.
Well, as well, before you wrap this up,
a beautiful movie.
Like Mark Pellington, right? Mark Pellington is a director that needs to have significantly more recognition. Like, this is the guy we mentioned previously, Arlington Road. That is a phenomenal conspiracy thriller.
It's
phenomenal.
Dark.
I think that's his first film. This is his second film. He directed another film. I forget its name now. But he did a film with
Swinging Big, then Swinging for the Fences with those two.
Yeah. And you know, he comes from music videos as well, so I kind of was aware of him before he made a feature film, so I was excited to see his stuff. But he did a film with like Thomas Jane and a couple of other cats. That was shot on like the 5D, and it was kind of
standard, is it?
It's not standard, no. It's later than that. It's maybe like 10 years old or something. But as far as I know, I think Mark Pellington did make another film after that, but he's not around. He just disappeared, yeah. And like the same thing with like Alex Proyas and all these guys, yeah. Studios need to be giving these cats some money, you know.
Absolutely.
Because they're
could not
like,
agree more, yeah.
Mark Pellington is not just a great director. I mean, the guy is a textural master. Like Mothman, Prophecies and Arlington Road, they should be calling card enough to get him involved in your project. Or if he has a project, fucking give him the money for it. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be an interesting thing. So, yeah.
He must have had the offers. He must have had the offers at that point.
Well, I think
maybe he just wanted to take a step back.
I think it's diminishing returns. Yeah, I think like if your movie doesn't make enough money,
yeah,
you know, and you've been out of the game for a while.
Well, that was my fear with Andrew Dominik.
You're right.
You know, like the director of Assassination of Jesse James by the coward
Robert
Ford, and
a stunning film.
Is it what's he called? Not Chopper. And the one we absolutely loved, Kingdom Softly.
Yeah.
A brilliant director. And I always had that same fear about him just disappearing because his movies weren't making huge money.
Well, he's got the Marilyn Monroe biopic coming to Netflix now, hasn't he? That's like inbound, right?
Absolutely. Hopefully it'll be a big hit for him.
Anything that Dominic does, anything that Pellington does, I'm there for, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the Mothman Prophecies, cats. If you haven't seen it, go and fucking watch it. And go watch it in the dark with the lights off.
Yeah, we'll put a link to, not exactly where you can stream it or view it, but we'll put like an IMDb or a Wikipedia link in the show notes.
An Amazon link. Are you affiliated?
No, we haven't got any affiliate links or anything. That's someone else's future job to sort all the sponsorship out and all that. So yeah, have you got a final movie you'd like to talk about?
I would. You're going to love this one, mate.
Okay.
I think, you know, I kind of wrap it up on a...
Am I going to love to hate this or love it?
You hate it, I think. I think you do hate it.
Interesting. Okay, but when did you and I last talk about this particular movie?
Well, we watched it together. I think you watched it for the first time with me. When I was, you know, many years ago, I had about 6-7 years ago, I had a serious spinal injury. And I was in bed for a long time. And you came round and I think it was the day, I think you brought Guardians of the Galaxy round for me. It was some fucking R&R treatment, you know?
Yeah.
Although I was getting enough R&R, like, you know, that's all I was getting.
Yeah, you were like Denzel Washington, a bone collector at that point.
I was in bed for 11 months, so you were kind of coming around to cheer me up, I think. And
yeah, because I can't imagine what, you know, my wife Vic, she was bedbound for 2 years.
Yeah.
She's gone through very similar things, man. So yes.
So you come around with Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And then after that film, I was like, hey, do you want to watch this? This is like, and you were like, okay, I'll give it a go. And that is, I think it's 19. Let me just double check, guys. It is 1988's Ken Russell movie, The Lair of the White Worm.
Yeah, I've been chastised by people online about this movie.
Have you? Because
there's so many people that... what's the name of the actress in the movie?
Amanda Donohoe.
Amanda Donohoe is just an icon, a British icon of...
LA Law, bro.
She's
Liar,
a stunner, she's a great actress, and Liar, she's... Yeah,
Emmerdale.
Very, is she in Emmerdale?
She was. I don't know if she's still
God. Emmerdale is a UK soap for anyone who doesn't know that.
It's the best UK soap.
That's definitely not going to appear in another episode.
It certainly was.
But yeah, a lot of people not a lot, but a few people that when I put a comment about this film and not being a huge fan, even saying I'm not a fan of this movie, got people ridiculing me. Riled up.
Really?
And that's why you know, this isn't a forum for politics or anything, but, you know, I stay away from... I don't necessarily stay away from politics or political views, but...
Contention.
Exactly. Like, people find aggro a way to kind of attack you, even if you have an opinion on a movie.
Well, before we get into them, what has been said to you about this film before? Like, what? And what's your opinion of it?
Like, well, I'll tell you what people have said to me about this film is that I should love this movie. That I should absolutely adore this movie.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it recently.
It's so funny.
But I think I detested it, but
yeah.
I haven't
seen you that annoyed, mate. I think since the only time you were that annoyed is when you came out of Baby Driver.
No. No, there's different times. There's Touching the Void, which I hated.
Yeah. The King of Scotland, Last
King of Scotland. Like, I think James McAvoy is a great actor. I like him in Pig. Is it Pig? No, Pig.
I don't know.
The thing about when he's a copper, he's always on drugs and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that was good, man.
He's amazing in that. There's Indiana Jones, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Is he in that?
Are you taking pills or something?
Sort of, yeah. Pills, mate.
Pills, mate, ESMEs. And there's been a few other films, and I've come out raging, absolutely raging. Baby Driver being one of them.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people out there, I'm not going to rant at you, but Baby Driver... I understand why people love it, but I don't like it because it's how I used to edit something like,
because it's a bit crap.
Let's edit to the music.
It's a bit crap. It's a bit crap.
It's
I mean, like in some aspects, I mean, it's very crap. But that's the whole fucking point of the movie. It's a bit crap.
Yeah.
So like we said, so it's 1988. It's directed by Ken Russell. It's based on the Bram Stoker novel. Yeah. The Lair of the White Worm, which I think has another title as well, right? Not Bram Stoker's best novel.
It feels like a seaside Hammer movie to me.
Yeah, well, if only it did, right? Listen, I love this film, yeah? You and I have, this is why I think it's interesting as well to have a chat about, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just me kind of, getting a hard on about what I like, right? We can have a conversation about something you do not like and something I really do like.
I think how you feel about it is how I feel about Vamp.
Well, I quite like
Grace
Vamp.
Jones, yeah.
Oh, I should have talked about Vamp because Vamp is like
I love Vamp. Vamp's one of my.
Vamp is a Colin Cucumber movie. I'm telling it like
it's on my watch. It's on my permanent watch list for Halloween. Vamp.
I was just talking to Guy the other day. It's a friend of ours, like a mutual friend of ours. I was talking to Guy the other day about Vamp and Grace Jones, and I was like, I have very conflicted feelings about Grace Jones because of Vamp,
Yeah.
And I think I watched Vamp when I was like 9. And it was really, I was like, oh, I'm very, very drawn to this. And it explains a lot, yeah. I'm very drawn to this. And at the same time, I'm terrified. That was a pattern, ladies and gentlemen, that has occurred throughout my adult life.
In real life as well.
So anyway, Lair of the White Worms, Ken Russell, it's 1988. Stars Amanda Donohoe. It stars Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant's kind of like the hero of the film. And Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
And... is it Julia Oxenberg
Oscar winner,
as well?
Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So for any Doctor Who fans out there, yeah. Suck it, right? But like,
Michael's a huge Doctor Who fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, we can't all be perfect, can we? So Tom Baker, sure, right? Rest of it, Peter Cushing, sure.
Tom Baker. This isn't going to turn into a Doctor Who podcast, but Tom Baker is Doctor Who.
Yes, he is.
End of story.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the end of the story. So, so Lair of the White Worm is based on Bram Stoker's inferior novel, and is kind of.
What's the kind of premise of it?
The premise is that there once was a giant worm that prowled the lands of somewhere in
Yorkshire,
rural England, Yorkshire, something like that. One of the an unknown shire, I think, right? And eons ago, a hero, like with the Lambton worm, which is kind of basically based on a hero rises and vanquishes this worm, and Hugh Grant plays the ancestor. The what's when you go forward? What's that? I can't think of the word.
Yes,
the descendant.
Yes, descendant.
The descendant. Fucking hell, Will, put your brain on, like. Get the engine fired up. He's the descendant of this guy who killed this mythological worm. Basically, it's like George and the Dragon, yeah. Amanda Donohoe plays this kind of immortal, maybe, ancient serpentine demon woman who comes back to
raise the worm,
the demon worm, and it's kind of in like a Lovecraftian way. This really crap worm is like an ancient god, and at the same time, Peter Capaldi, who's staying in this cottage, digs up the skull of what is probably the Lambton worm, which I think is an alligator skull or something. I don't know, something. It's pretty big, maybe, I don't know, and and then all sorts of shits and giggles ensue. It's very tongue in cheek. It's Ken Russell was a very naughty English schoolboy, and I love him for that. He was obsessed with all the things that naughty British schoolboys are obsessed with, certainly from that time. Yeah. And Amanda Donohoe is fucking on fire, just outright seductive, and just killing it in her dominatrix style. And she comes in.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
She comes in and she just starts finding victims. And she's like a snake lady, basically. That's the move. And then Hugh Grant. How
does she kind of arrive into the film?
I think she just drives in. She just walks in to the movie.
She knows about the worm already?
Who knows? She knows about the worm already. There's like some fucking crazy scenes with her, like with Roman soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
Crucified things going on.
I remember that, yeah.
Some very early, like, green screen matte composites that look pretty bad now, but were probably pretty rock and roll back then.
Cutting edge back then.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. But ask Alex Proyas about that. He'll know. So and then like it's just a kind of a vampire movie in from there in some respects, and but it's a comedy, and I think that if people don't understand that it's this is Ken Russell made this. Ken Russell made The Devils. Ken Russell is one of the finest, considered to be the English or British Fellini, by Fellini, right? He's one of the finest directors that we have ever produced. Yeah. He made this film. He was older when he made this film. He made 2 films back to back that were kind of financed for nothing. And he made this film to try and get other films made, basically, to try and, make some money, make a hit. He had like the idea that, and he wrote the script, right? And the idea that Ken Russell took this fucking seriously is, I think, absurd. He makes a tongue-in-cheek film that's just good fun. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for 1988. But when you look at all the actors, he's got great thesps in there. Amanda Donohoe is a great thesp.
Yeah, the cast is excellent. Yeah,
it's just good fun. And it is crap, right? But maybe again, this is like a film like The Hunger. I watched this when I was he was on Bravo, like when I was 13. You know what I mean? So Amanda Donohoe is forever, singed into my mind. And also I don't think there's another actress who could do that. Who could actually play that part so well. It's just become, when you watch her, there's not a great deal to her performance. Some of it is silly, but how she is, and with Hugh Grant as well. Hugh Grant goes on to be like the kind of the classic English bumbling hero. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amanda Donohoe is like the femme fatale resurrected.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is, she could, I think Amanda Donohoe might be the only woman who could have stepped into Sharon Stone's shoes in Basic Instinct.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, this is the kind of film it is. It's very naughty. It's very bawdy at places. It's got a lot of there's a lot of sexual imagery in it, and it's great. It's just fantastic. But you hate it. Why do you hate it?
I don't know. Maybe it was a time and a place kind of situation.
Mate, I remember you being so, you were just annoyed that I don't think you talked to me much after you went, because you were staying at mine and you were like, I'm going to bed.
I remember showing a group of people in my first year of uni, because Will and I, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a lot of you, is that Will and I met at university and we were talking about Carpenter in a poster shop in the middle of Manchester.
It's like the first question you asked me, bro.
Do you like John Carpenter?
Do you like John Carpenter? I was like, no.
Yeah. You didn't say that.
No, I didn't say that.
But I showed John
I think
Carpenter.
Ghosts of Mars is like the best film ever made.
Fucking hell. It's got the worst production design of any of his horror movies. It's got ski goggles as protective goggles on Mars, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Actually, saying that, I've got the Blu-ray of Prince of Darkness over there somewhere. I'm dying to watch that. Anyway, so I was showcasing people The Fog, or John Carpenter's The Fog on DVD, and it was an import. It was that point where DVDs in the US were way better, and I used to import quite a few, and I've still got a multi-region DVD player for whatever reason here in the house. And I was showing people The Fog, and for me, this is a point where I started to love horror more, especially Carpenter, because it was tonally, he was completely my jam. I loved the music. I started to love 80s more and more in the early noughties. And it was 2006 first year or 2005?
No, it's 2004.
So I showed this to a group of
2005,
people that were similar age to me, maybe a few years younger, because I was a slightly older, mature student. And
not as mature as me.
when it was finished, there was two people that loved it, myself and one other person. There was 6 other people watching it in the halls, in the room. Everyone sat on the floor, and everyone else just where I was with you with Lair the White Worm.
Yeah,
they just, I don't know if they didn't get it.
This is the thing, yeah.
No, this is The Fog.
Because that's The Fog. Because I remember you showing the thing as well.
I showed the blood test scene.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex, we all, for I don't know, for some kind of module in university, right? We had to show a scene from one of our favorite films or something, right, and explain why you liked it. This is the least effective module I think any film school university has ever kind of included in its course. I'm sure there's others out there that you'll tell us about.
So I showed
the
scene from The Thing, the 1982 The Thing.
Yeah.
Where,
and the tragedy of this as well, because nobody liked it.
Yeah, when McCready, exactly. Yeah, that's a whole
masterclass in suspense.
Yeah, I took in from the get go, and McCready, the character played by Kurt Russell, is testing everyone's blood on Outpost 31 to make sure you're an alien or not, and it's just a great scene of cinema. And when I showed that scene in the first year of uni in a class, and we're talking about tension or how to build a scene up, no one got it, and I never understood that.
I don't think it's even that nobody got it, mate. They just didn't. The majority of the reaction was from a largely pretentious wannabe group of people was, it's science fiction. I've got no interest in that.
Yeah, and you can't dismiss science fiction. Science fiction was at the dawn of cinema. It was pretty much at the beginning of cinema. So you can't dismiss it, and that's what I think happened to Dune this year. I think Dune should have won Best Film at the Oscars.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. What won Best Film this year?
Coda. I think it was Coda.
I haven't even watched that, mate.
Yeah, I almost forgot after it.
But that's the Oscars, though. Nobody, like everything, half the time things win.
Yeah.
Nobody's fucking seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's immediately forgotten.
Totally agree. That happened with Roma from Netflix. I think that won Best Film. Anyway, we were talking about Lair of the White Worm. Other people, felt about The Fog, how I felt about Lair of the White Worm. And yeah, I'll probably revisit it again.
Yeah, but The Fog is a much superior film in many ways to Lair of the White Worm.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean?
You've got pirates, you've got ghost pirates, they're killing people.
Yeah, I mean, The Fog is in like my top 20 horror films, definitely, right? It's an excellent ghost story.
Yeah.
But the Lair of the White Worm is neither horrifying nor suspenseful or particularly well made. It's some lovely stately homes in it, though.
Yeah, it feels like a horror version of an episode of Lovejoy or something.
But forever, I will be that boy who watched, Amanda Donohoe coming down the road in a Jaguar E-Type, picking up a Boy Scout.
Is it red?
I think it's green.
And she devours him.
I think it's silver or green.
She devours him.
Well, but she picks up this Boy Scout, who's like, do you want fries with that? And then, she's flashing off the leg with the suspenders on and all that, and she's very, very, Amanda Donohoe.
Seductress.
Beyond seductress, right? Yeah, she's just naughty, and I fucking love that,
Yeah.
And, she's a femme fatale. She takes him back to the mansion, and it's certainly inferred that she bites his penis off, so, what a way to go. What a way to go.
So that is 3 films that that how would you phrase it? Want to kind of push back into the limelight.
Yeah, I would just for anybody who hasn't seen them, check them out. Lair of the White Worm, The Hunger, and the Mothman Prophecies. If you haven't seen them, check them out. If you have seen them and don't like them, you can fuck off.
I think that might be the title of the episode. But thank you again, Will, for joining us on this. The 3-episode arc of the podcast.
The invoice is on your desk.
Yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, we'll be definitely back soon. You've got some great insight. We'll talk about aspects of filmmaking or what it takes to make a short or lighting or whatever we're going to talk about. Will's definitely going to be back again. He'd be a great co-host or guest host.
Cool.
So, thank you very much, Will.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, audience, for tuning in again. And yeah, we'll see you all soon. And probably Michael and I will be back next week. Okay, see you all soon. Bye-bye.